Welcome to Cory's Stories. Are you ready to meditate with Cory?
Hi friend, don't forget to subscribe, say that you like the video, and also press the bell so that you get notifications every time I make a new video. If you love HEIDI, Cherry, and VAYA, or Tucker and Leo stories, you can now get exclusive stories on my Patreon account. Go to the links below the video and you can join HEIDI, Cherry, and VAYA Club or the Tucker and Leo Club and get exclusive stories with your names in them. I love you all so much. Enjoy the story. Bye, friend.
Are you ready to meditate with Cory? Make sure that you're all nice and comfortable in your bed so you can lay still and quiet, relaxing your body, your muscles, and your mind. It's time to let go of your day and hopefully fall fast asleep. Stephany had not been to Moonbow Forest for quite some time. She'd been on vacation with her family, and then when she got back off vacation, she got so busy with her friends, doing different activities every day because it was the summer holidays, that she barely had time for herself. But she was getting that familiar itch, like she needed to go and see all of her friends. She'd been out all day at the roller skate park with a bunch of her friends. When she got home, she put her roller skates in the closet and went running upstairs. Her intention was to have a shower, put on her comfortable clothes, and then get ready to go. Sitting down at her dressing table in her bedroom, she brushed through her wet hair, put the brush down, opened her jewelry box, took out her special earrings, her magical earrings, that whatever she wore them took her into that other world called Moonbow Forest. She put the left earring on first and then the right, closed her eyes, and took a big, deep breath. The first thing she felt was a tingling sensation in the base of her feet, as if the ground beneath her feet was all electric and vibrating and buzzing. And then that tingling sensation ran up through her legs and up through her spine really quickly. She shivered in response. The tiny little hairs on her arms all stood up, and her nose started to itch and twitch. There was a buzzing sensation throughout her entire body. And by now, because she'd been so many times, the feeling was welcoming and familiar. She knew she was preparing her body to go into a different dimension, a completely different world, beyond this world. She had no clue really where Moonbow Forest was, no evidence that it even existed, but she knew it wasn't here. it wasn't on Earth. It was somewhere far, far away, as if it belonged on another planet or in another space and time. A few moments later, the veil, her familiar curtain between this world and Moonbow Forest, appeared in front of her face. It shimmered and sparkled like it always does. And if she looked really, really carefully, she could see through it. She could see shapes and images, but not completely clearly. She used her right hand to pull the curtain to one side. She stepped into Moonbow Forest once again. She could feel the grass underneath her bare feet, prickly and soft. It had a bounce to it, that familiar bounce that felt like thick, lush grass underneath her feet. Bright, bright green. That's all she could see as she looked down at the ground. And then when she looked up, she saw the trees, the forest. Today, she spotted Misty first, a silvery grey unicorn. He was very handsome. Then she spotted Luna. And finally, through the trees, further away slightly, she saw Vanilla Bean, a beautiful cream unicorn that had a coffee mane and tail. She started to walk towards them. Luna looked up, sensing that Stephany was there. Luna smiled as Stephany walked closer and closer. Misty and Vanilla Bean walked towards where Luna was standing, so they were all stood together, smiling, all three of them, waiting for Stephany to arrive right there in front of them. Luna said, "Welcome, Stephany. It's been a while." Stephany smiled and gave Luna a hug. She rubbed her nose on her nose, and they touched foreheads for a few moments of silence, connecting with each other in an energetical, deep, touching way. She rubbed noses with Misty and touched his forehead. And finally, she greeted Vanilla Bean in the same way. Then she stepped back and said, "I'm so excited to see everyone and be here." Luna said, "Oh, we're so glad you're here. I want to show you something that you've not seen before today. Are you ready for a ride?" Luna stretched out her front legs and lowered part of her body down, and Stephany climbed up on the back of her. Luna rubbed her feet, her front hooves, in the ground, as if testing the connection, and then she started to walk forward, and then she was up in the sky, along with Vanilla Bean and Misty close by. All three unicorns and Stephany were flying up above the beginning part of Moonbow Forest. The trees, the lakes, Pizza Mountain. Today they flew north. She'd been north many times, so she was quite intrigued on where Luna was taking her. They flew for about 10 minutes, not too long. It was lovely to be there, and it was a perfect day. It was sunny, but not too sunny. There was a breeze, but it wasn't too windy. The breeze was nice and cool and refreshing. And as it blew through Stephany's hair, she was thinking to herself, I wish I could come here every day. Why have I left it so long? They eventually landed in the middle of a wide open field full of wildflowers. When Stephany climbed off Luna's back and landed on the ground, she said, I think I've been here before. Did you bring me here to see the flowers? They're so beautiful. Can I eat them? Are they delicious? Luna said, Oh yes, you've been here before. Vanilla Bean said, Yes, you've been here before, but you've never done what we're going to do today before. Misty looked at Luna, and then he looked at Vanilla Bean, and then he looked at Stephany, and he said, Oh, you're going to be very surprised. Luna reached down and nibbled at the flowers. She bit 4 flowers. She had them there in her teeth when she came back up, and Stephany started laughing because she looked really cute. She passed Stephany one of the flowers and gave one to Vanilla Bean and one to Misty, and kept one for herself. Stephany curtsied and said, Why, thank you, as if she was just receiving a beautiful flower. The flowers that Luna had bitten from the ground were purple with a yellow center. Luna said they're called petit fours. Petit fours are very special, magical flowers here in Moonbow Forest. And then Luna started to chew and then swallow her flower. Misty did the same. Vanilla Bean did the same. Stephany said, What, I'm supposed to eat this flower? Yes, said Luna. Stephany said, Is it an edible flower? Because you have to be careful. You can't just go around eating flowers. Luna said, Stephany, you're here in Moonbow Forest. Everything is safe to eat here. You're not on your planet where you have to be careful. You're here and you're safe. Stephany started to chew on the flower. It tasted like blueberries. Blueberries with a hint of lemon, she thought. And then she watched something that she couldn't believe she was watching. Luna started to shrink. She was shrinking. Her body was changing. Tinier and tinier and tinier. Every split second that passed, Luna practically disappeared in front of Stephany's eyes. And then Misty did, and then Vanilla Bean did, and then she felt this really weird sensation in her body, and she felt herself shrinking, until she was so small that all the wildflowers that were there just a few moments ago, down at her feet, were miles taller than her head. She was so tiny, and as she looked around, There in front of her were her 3 friends, Misty and Luna and Vanilla Bean, tiny just like her. But she found herself in, oh my goodness, a utopia, another world that she would never even dreamed existed. There was so much life around her. There were these tiny, tiny little people. There were bugs, there were ants, there were different insects. There was all sorts of life going on all around her. Some of the bugs looked kind of big and scary, but Luna looked at her and said, "Shh, you're totally safe. This is the Honeysuckle Territory. You're going to meet a whole new world down here, Stephany, that's here all the time. We're just too big to see it. Honeysuckle Territory is a really, really wonderful place. The people here are called petites. They're very tiny. They're petite. The animals are tiny. All the wilderness and wildlife looks big and gigantic. Look at that mushroom over there. A tiny little mushroom that would just look like a tiny mushroom to us when we're full size was absolutely enormous. And the petites had actually made lots of little swings that swung underneath the mushroom, and all the petites' children were playing on there. The petites looked very, very cute. They were like a really cute little elf with pointed ears and a button nose, big glossy eyes. They were like that, but tinier than you could ever imagine. And the children were even tinier. Luna said, "I brought you here because there's a place called Honeysuckle Cafe, and it does the best drinks you'll ever taste." Luna started to walk in a direction where Misty and Vanilla Bean followed, so Stephany did as well. There was so much life going on down there. There was noises and clanking and laughing and talking, and everyone was busy at doing different things. There was a bakery, a hairdresser's. It was like our world on Earth, but shrunk down into a tiny, 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 tiny grain of salt version of what that looks like. The cafe that they were going to was super cool. It had an area outside where you could sit and people watch, or petites watch in this case. And the waiter had a tiny mustache that curled on the sides, and Stephany couldn't stop staring at it. Luna said that they were there for the house special. Stephany was intrigued. She watched as the waiter went back to a place that looked like a tiny little kitchen. The whole kitchen was covered in honeysuckle plants that were absolutely enormous at the side of the waiter. The waiter grabbed what looked like a long pair of pliers off the wall that were hanging on a hook. And then he had these tiny little glasses on a tray. The plier instrument he applied to one of the stems of the honeysuckle plant that was on the wall, and he squeezed and pulled, and honeysuckle juice dripped off the bottom of the stem. It looked golden and shiny and slightly thick, like runny honey. He filled the glasses, the 4 glasses, and then he hung back up his instrument on the hook on the wall, put a towel over his arm like a little waiter would, and then he brought the tray with the glasses to the table. He sat them down. The unicorns drank the fluid first, and then Stephany picked up her glass and smelled. She did a big old sniff. It smelled like when you walk past a honeysuckle bush and you can't help but pause and take in a big deep breath because it smells so good. It smelled like summer and love and hugs and lemon drops and fairies and angels and everything good in the world. She took a small sip, and her cheeks instantly flushed pink. It was divine. It was the best thing that she'd ever tasted. She looked at Luna, and she didn't have to say anything. Luna just nodded and smiled. And so did Misty and Vanilla Bean. They sat there in silence for quite a while, just sipping and watching all of the life in this place down below that you would never think existed unless you ate one of the petit pois flowers and you knew the magic of what happened with them. Otherwise, it just looked like an ordinary field full of wildflowers that anyone would just walk through at any time and not even know, not have any clue what was down below happening in a whole other world of life. After quite some time, Luna indicated that it was time to go, but she would definitely bring Stephany back here. There were so many different things, so many different creatures to meet, so many different patirs to meet. But it was time to go for now. They said goodbye to the waiter, and Stephany climbed on Luna's back. The 3 unicorns very carefully walked a little bit and then flew all the way back. And every second that passed, they got bigger and bigger and bigger, as if the magic of the petit pois was wearing off second by second. Like when you left the place, you instantly went back to your normal shape and size. When Stephany got home that night, she laid on her bed staring at the ceiling, watching her fan go round and round for the longest time. Her cheeks were still pink, like the magic of the honeysuckle drink was still there in her body, buzzing away, doing its thing. She wished in that moment she could share Moonbow Forest with the whole world. She was so grateful for her experiences there, but at the same time she felt guilty, like she was keeping the most perfect place away from the rest of the world. It made her feel guilty that she was the only one, except for the occasional friend that she took. But then she was filled again with gratitude and appreciation for her opportunity to have these experiences. Eventually, she closed her eyes and rolled over onto her side. She brought her knees up to her chest and hugged on herself in a fetal position that felt comfortable like she was being hugged by the world, by the earth, by Mama Earth. She slept the best that she slept that night after her wonderful experience in the Honeysuckle Territory, there at Moonbow Forest. The end.